All right, let's go back on the record in BF 1668018, People versus Sabrina Limon. Record reflects she's present in court with her attorney and the people are represented. You have Kelly Bernatine still on the stand, subject to direct by Mr. Smith, and all 12 plus 4 in the box. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all back. Mr. Smith, if you'd like to continue.
Thank you. When we left off, we were going to move to August 17, 2014. Where were you when you first heard Robert had been hurt or killed?
I was in bed, and a friend called.
Do you recall who called you?
Her name was Ashley Cooper.
Okay. After you received that call, what did you do?
I was confused. I wasn't sure exactly what had happened, and so I told Jason, and we went over to Sabrina and Rob's home.
How long did you stay there that evening?
Maybe a couple hours.
Now, were you involved in the preparations for Robert's funeral?
Yes.
What did you do?
I organized things with the church. I made the plan for what was going to happen, the whole agenda for the day. Organized the speakers and the songs, and I also did the slideshow.
Were you aware whether or not there was a GoFundMe page?
Yeah, I created the GoFundMe page.
When did you create the GoFundMe page?
I don't remember the actual date, but it was probably within days of finding out that Rob had died.
What was the purpose of that page?
To raise money for Sabrina and the kids.
Now, staying with the time frame after Robert had been killed, did you see Jonathan Hearn either approaching Sabrina's house or at Sabrina's house?
I saw him, I'm going to say within 2 weeks, driving towards our town.
When you say saw him, what was the vehicle? How did you recognize him?
It was a Ford truck, like a gray-colored four-door Ford truck.
Did you recognize Mr. Hearn as the driver of that vehicle?
Yes.
And you said you saw the vehicle nearing your town?
Yes.
Where?
On our highway, on the National Trails Highway.
How far from Hellendale did you see him?
Maybe 7 miles.
Now, did you speak with Sabrina about seeing Jonathan?
No, I didn't.
Did Sabrina ever speak with you about Jonathan coming over to her house? And again, this is after Robert had been killed.
She did. It was shortly after the funeral service. She said he came over with flowers.
You said you first saw, or you saw the Ford truck about 2 weeks after Robert died.
Yes.
Did you again see that same Ford truck?
Yes, I saw it parked outside her house.
Now, did you recognize the vehicle at that point? Like, did you know whose truck it was?
I suspected it was his, and I asked her. And she said it was another friend, Paul McLean's.
And the name of that person's Paul McLean?
McLean.
Aaron, if I could approach that Madam Mark.
Yes.
People's 12 Mark
please.
Ms. Bernatine, showing you People's 12, which are overhead maps of the Hellendale area. If you could review those, please. On the second page, there is a marking for 27250 Strawberry Lane. Do you recognize that location?
Yes, that's Sabrina and Rob's home.
Your Honor, I would request People's 12 be moved into evidence at this time. Be allowed to publish.
Chair, any objection? It'll be admitted, counsel. Proceed.
Now, when you saw the truck, where was it at within the driveway?
It's a pretty big truck, so it filled up the driveway almost.
Now, did you take note of the truck, as in what the license plate is, the make, the model?
I wrote down the license plate
And why did you do that?
because I was suspicious.
The information relating to the license plate, who did you provide it to?
I gave it to Detective Meyer.
Why were you suspicious?
I felt that she was hiding him, and I didn't think it was Paul's truck, so I wanted to see whose truck it was.
Now, did you ever send a text message to Sabrina then, specifically asking whose truck it was, or was it a phone call?
It was in person.
Now, did you see any other vehicles you found to be suspicious in front of Sabrina's home?
I saw a motorcycle.
Can you describe the motorcycle as you recall it?
It was black. It looked kind of like a vintage style, and it had Forgiven airbrushed on the side of it.
Did you take any information, like such as the license plate, from the motorcycle?
I did. I also took a picture of it.
The license plate number, did you provide that to Detective Meyer as well?
I did.
Did you ask Sabrina who the motorcycle belonged to?
No,
Okay, why not?
because she'd already lied to me once.
Now, the time frames we're talking about when you saw the truck, the motorcycle, is that all prior to your interview with Detective Meyer?
I believe it was after,
How long after your interview with Detective?
within days.
So just to set the sequence, you speak to Detective Meyer in an extended interview.
Yes.
At that point, had you seen the truck belonging to Jonathan?
I saw the truck first, and I believe I told him about it in the interview.
You then have your interview with Detective Meyer. Do you keep updating him in person or over the phone?
Over the phone.
Now, when you had your interview with Detective Meyer, were you aware that there was a reward for information in this case?
I was.
Okay. Did you speak with Detective Meyer just in the hopes that you could get the money from that reward?
Absolutely not.
Why did you speak with Detective Meyer?
Because someone killed my friend, and they needed to pay for it.
Nothing further.
Secretary Cross.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bernatine.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Bernardine, you and your husband are no longer married, is that right?
No, we're not.
And a couple weeks ago, you had a divorce party, right?
No, I did not.
Answer, Stan.
I've never had a divorce party. But divorce is great.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Now, you've described your relationship with Sabrina. You met her, I believe you said approximately 2007, 2008. Is that right?
Yes.
And you would describe your relationship with her, you guys were best friends, weren't you?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, that's what you said when you spoke at Robert's funeral, is that Kelly, that Sabrina was your best friend. Right?
Yes, she was.
And she was, I think you said, too sweet to be true. Is that right?
That's what I thought.
And now you changed your mind. Is that right?
Definitely.
Now, at some point during the course of your relationship with Ms. Limon and her husband, did you and your husband frequently go with them on adult-only vacations?
Sometimes, yes. A couple times a year.
And with regards to that, did you and Ms. Limon and her husband and your husband engage in sexual activity together?
Yes, we did.
And when your husband, Jason, was present, he basically only wanted you to engage in oral sex. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when your husband wasn't present, how often were you having sexual relations with Robert Limon?
I was not.
Did you ever have sexual relations with Robert Limon where it was just the two of you?
No.
Were there times where you had sexual relations with Mr. Limon when with Mrs. Limon?
No.
Now, with regards to Robert Limon, how would you describe your relationship with him?
He was my friend. He was my good friend. We were all best friends.
Now, you have, I believe what they call Pinterest pages, is that right?
Uh-huh.
E is an echo.
I might approach Your Honor.
Please.
Ms. Bernardine, is this the Pinterest page you had for your husband shortly after Robert's death?
Yes.
And that picture depicts what appears to be a male wearing jeans with a handgun in his back pocket. Is that right?
Yes, it's an article on a concealed weapon permit.
And this time, Your Honor, I'd ask to move Defense Exhibit E into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Smith?
Yes, relevance.
Can I see it, Mr. Terry? please?
Sure. Introductory, Your Honor.
One second. Can I see counsel at sidebar for 1 second? I did have the opportunity to speak to counsel at sidebar. I'm going to withhold ruling on defendants E at this point. Mr. Terry, if you'd like to continue. F is in Foxtrot. Is that F, Mr. Terry?
It is. Defense Exhibit F. That's your Pinterest page for Rob Limon.
Yes, it is.
And for those of us who are not into this, could you explain what Pinterest is?
It's like an image saver, and those are just like quotes and poems on grieving and things of that nature.
Now, on this one, there's a number of things such as love, missing you, such as the hardest thing is not talking to someone you used to talk to every day. Is that right?
Okay.
Okay. Are those some of the things that you posted?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be safe to say that this one, your page for Rob Limon, is a bit more extensive than one you have for your own husband?
I have all different pages, so I had quotes on love and other things, but that one specifically, yes.
Okay. Well, specifically to the one related to your husband, it's a one-page Pinterest page, right?
I don't know exactly how many pins I have on it.
Well, you saw the exhibit that was presented to you. Is that your Pinterest page for your husband at or about shortly after Rob Limon was killed?
There could be more or less, I don't know.
Now, with regards to these adult trips that you and your friends would take, who are some of the other people that were involved in these adult trips?
There are our group of friends.
Who are they?
You want specific names?
Yes, ma'am.
Nancy and Dax Petrov, Nikki and Ed Urtiaga. Let's see, back then it was Ashley and Bubba Cooper. Paul and Liz McLean. There were friends from Arizona, Heather and Kurt Hartwick, Christina and Rusty Mosier, Stephanie and Mark Fenton. That's all I can think of right now.
Now, Ashley Cooper, that's the one that's also known as Smashley.
Yes.
Okay. That's because when she drinks a bit.
Yes.
Okay. It's a little wild,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like you do.
Sometimes.
Now, you indicated that you didn't have any type of, other than the times that you and Rob and your husband and Sabrina engaged in oral sex, that you didn't have any sexual relations with Rob. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you ever send him photographs of yourself nude from the waist up?
No.
Is there any reason why he would have photos of you, nude photos of you, on his phone?
It's possible that they could have been sent by Jason or by Sabrina. I never sent him any photos of myself.
So Jason would send nude photos of you to Rob Limon?
It's possible. I don't know for sure.
Now let's go back to something that you'd mentioned. With regards to Sabrina and your relationship, you indicated you were best friends.
Yes.
And with regards to the community of Silver Lakes, that's a small gated community, is that right?
There's no gate, but it's a small community, yes.
And would it be safe to say that because of your relationship with Rob and Sabrina, that you were involved quite a bit in their business? Would that be accurate? Or their life?
In their life, yes.
Okay. And certainly their marital relationship, you were involved in their marital relationship too, were you not?
I mean, I guess she would confide in me, but they didn't really have any marital issues that I knew about. Other than Jonathan Hearn and
With regards to that, okay, you indicated that you became aware of Sabrina and Jonathan being involved, is that right? Or you became suspicious?
Rob told me that they had an affair.
Okay. I'm going to move the strike on it's non-responsive and hearsay.
Assistant.
Let me put it to you this way. You said when you saw Sabrina at the bar that, I can't remember the old Brady's, okay, that you thought that it was unusual that she seemed to be somewhat comfortable and somewhat, I believe, was it flirtatious with you thought, with Jonathan Hearn at that bar in 2013?
Yeah, slightly, but it wasn't an overpowering suspicion at that point. No.
Well, and I understand that. It wasn't an overpowering suspicion, but you said you were suspicious, right?
A little bit, but she told me there was nothing to worry about, and I believed her. And
Okay. Well, my question to you is what business is it of yours? You are not married to her, right?
right?
Okay, so you were butting into her personal life. Is that right?
No, she called me and told me about it. I didn't ask her
Well, you said earlier you were suspicious, right?
because I was asked.
I'm sorry?
Because I was asked.
But something you said was made you suspicious. Is that right?
The look on her face made me suspicious.
Okay. And when you were taking photographs, were you taking photographs of everybody all night long?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jonathan was there, and he was hanging out with everybody, including Rob, right?
I didn't see a lot of interaction with Rob, but yeah, he was there. He was talking to everyone almost.
Well, it's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 11. That was a photograph you took, and that has Rob, Sabrina's two cousins, and Jonathan in it, right?
Her nephews.
And her nephews.
Not cousins.
I'm sorry, nephews. And then someone else that you knew. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So,
He had never met him before that night, so he met him and probably shook his hand and talked to him. But as far as being his pal all night, it wasn't the case.
and you all were drinking that night, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were all feeling pretty good, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. And you were all being social with people that you may have knew somewhat. Would that be accurate? For example, your husband was hanging with his other firefighters.
Yes. Yes.
And with Jonathan Hearn.
Yes.
I want to make sure the time frame when you say you saw Jonathan Hearn's truck, or the truck that you identified as Jonathan Hearn's, parked in front of Sabrina's house. When was this? Approximately how long after Rob's death?
It was within a few weeks because when I asked her about it, we were writing thank you cards from the funeral.
And because was it you and Sabrina writing thank you cards, or was it someone else?
Sabrina, me, and our friend Nancy.
And you saw Hearn's truck in the driveway?
I had seen it the night before that.
The night before you were filling out the cards?
Yes.
Okay. And you seen it that night at her house? Is
Yes.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see how long it was parked there?
No. Well, no.
You just saw it for a brief moment.
I'm pretty sure I saw it, went home and came back, and then it was still there, and then I wrote down the license plate. So
How
that
long?
would have taken about 10 minutes.
Okay. And when you saw it, it was in the evening, is that right?
Yes.
And that was the night before you were doing these thank you cards?
Yes.
Okay. And it was there approximately 10 minutes plus. Is that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Where were you going when you were going by Sabrina's house and that you saw the truck?
My parents live right down the street, and I was going to my parents' house.
So you were going over to your parents' residence at that time?
Yes.
And you saw a truck that you thought might be related to Jonathan Hearn, who you had your suspicions about?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Had you and your husband all received a letter from Jonathan Hearn when you made these observations about the truck?
I'm not sure if the letter had been received yet, but the phone call, I had heard the voicemail.
It was kind of strange.
Yes.
Now, also during your eulogy at Rob's memorial service, you said that Sabrina and Rob were two of a kind. Is that right?
I think I did say something like that.
And you also mentioned that Rob had brought you gifts and done things for you, such as he brought you scented candles from Tehachapi. Is that right?
Yes. He did that for a lot of people, not just me.
Now, you'd seen the truck, you wrote down the license plate number. And then, how long after that was it that you actually saw the motorcycle?
I'm going to say within a week.
A week after the truck?
Within a week of seeing the truck, maybe a few days.
And you said that it was kind of a vintage-looking motorcycle, is that right?
That's what it looked like to me. I'm not a motorcycle expert, but yeah.
Neither am I, ma'am. I understand. You indicated that it was dark, or was black in color, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Had you seen that motorcycle before the time you saw it outside of Sabrina's home?
No.
And you noticed that on the gas tank it had airbrushed onto it, I believe it was Forgiven and a cross, right?
I don't remember the cross. I just remember Forgiven.
That was the first time you'd ever seen that motorcycle?
Yes.
Now, was it This was after you'd already had interviewed with Detective Myers?
I believe so.
And you don't recall the date that you actually received, you and your husband received a letter from Jonathan Hearn?
No. I never saw the letter.
You never saw it?
No. He didn't want to open it. He didn't want to read it. I don't think.
Your husband did?
I don't think so. I don't remember. I never saw it.
Did your husband ever express to you his feelings about Jonathan Hearn?
Before or after Rob's murder?
Before.
When we had talked about it, he said he was a really smart guy. That he was probably going to be a fire chief one day, and that's about it.
Did you ever indicate that he was a little concerned about all the text messages he'd gotten from Jonathan Hearn?
Oh, yeah. After I had seen them in Costco together, he called Jonathan, I believe, to tell him to stay away from Sabrina. And he said that the way that Jonathan sounded was pretty crazy. And then the text messages that he was getting, he thought he was kind of hitting on him, like Jonathan maybe was gay because he wanted to hang out with him. But really, he just wanted to be around Sabrina.
Well, that's what you believe.
Maybe he is gay. I don't know.
You don't know. And you don't know what his intent was when he was trying to hang around with your husband, whether or not it was to see Sabrina or to just see your husband.
I'm pretty sure he wanted to see Sabrina.
Well, you don't know that. You're speculating as to that, aren't you?
I am. I don't know
Okay.
what he wanted. I know
So-
he wanted to be around, though.
Is there some reason in particular that you really want to get Sabrina?
That she killed Rob.
Well, she didn't kill anyone, did she?
I believe she did.
You believe she actually went and shot Rob?
No, I believe she told Jonathan to shoot Rob.
So you're out to get her because of that belief, right? Aren't you?
Yes.
And you'd do anything to get her because you have that belief, wouldn't you?
Do anything?
Gotten up there on that stand, ma'am, you pointed a finger at your best friend and believe that she's a killer.
I do. It's a horrible thing.
You've
No.
made that judgment based upon your feelings, right?
The things that I have seen, yes.
And as far as you know, Sabrina may not have known anything about Jonathan's killing her husband, right?
No, I know she knew. I know she knew by her behavior.
Or you want to believe that, right?
I do believe it.
You want to believe that, right?
I do believe it.
And because of that feeling, you want to get Sabrina, right?
I believe she should pay for his murder.
Because you believe she was involved.
Yes.
And that's because you cared about her husband so deeply, right?
I believe I cared about him more than she did.
And that's based upon your belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Smith?
Ms. Bernatine, I want to ask you about these, what's been characterized as adult trips.
Okay.
If you could just describe what is meant when you say an adult trip.
That means no children.
So it is a vacation that you took with other adults without the kids.
Right.
Are these wild sex orgies that you're going to the river to have?
No.
Did you ever have an affair with Rob? That is, you and Robert.
No, I did not.
Can you please explain what you mean by you're in the room, you, your husband, Sabrina, Robert, and there's sexual relations going on? It's a very vague term. What is meant by that?
It was usually Sabrina and I, and then we would go have sex with our husbands.
Okay. So when you were speaking about, in the broad terminology of sexual relations, that involved you and Sabrina.
Yes.
Your husbands were in the room, that being Robert and Jason.
Yes.
When that was done, you would go to separate locations.
Well, in the same room, but not together, yeah.
The day that Robert was murdered, where were you at?
I was at home.
Okay, what about Jason?
He was at home. We went to a fantasy football draft and had lunch, and then we were at home.
Did you have anything to do with Robert's death?
Absolutely not.
Did you have a boyfriend that drove to Tehachapi and killed Robert?
No, I did not.
Nothing further.
Sure. G is in goal.
Let me approach Hunter.
Please.
Ms. Bernstein, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit G, and see if you recognize those photos and the people in them.
That is me and an old friend of mine, Teresa Rowe, and my husband on a cruise.
Is that one of those adult vacations
Yeah.
you took? And do you normally take your top off on adult vacations? On a ship?
I don't think I took my top off. I think it was just a flash.
Flash
Sometimes.
for somebody to take a photo of you?
Maybe sometimes that happens.
Okay. Especially after you've had a few.
Yeah.
On the night that you saw Hearn at, sorry, I'm not real good with Untitled Ladies, was that it?
Yes.
Okay. As you were leaving, did you also flash him?
No, I did not.
Were you in the car with Sabrina when you
Yeah.
left?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time I move Defense Exhibit G into evidence.
1 second, can I see that? Mr. Smith?
Relevance or objection?
Sir Cherry asked to page 2, relevance?
You can have a sidebar, Your Honor.
Okay, 1 second, folks. Give me just a minute. counsel at sidebar. People's G is in golf will be the Mr. Terry.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Smith,
Nothing else, Your Honor.
you step down. Thank you very much. Smith,
People call John Justice.
how's my jury doing over there? Everybody okay? Let's see a thumbs up. All right. Sir, could you come forward, step up to the podium, raise your right hand, we'll swear you in.
You do solemnly state that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Come on up, have a seat, please. Good afternoon, sir. Can you tell us your name and spell your last name for the record?
John Justice, Justus,
Your witness, Mr. Smith.
How are you currently employed?
at BNSF Railway.
How long have you worked for BNSF Railway?
24 and a half years.
What is your current job title?
I'm a carman.
What does that mean?
I work on rail cars.
Have you had occasion to work as a rapid responder in Tehachapi?
Yes,
Do you still do that?
yes.
Okay. Just describe what a rapid responder is.
You just, if you get a call, you go out and help a train that's in need.
How long have you worked as a rapid responder?
10 years.
Have you ever done that in a full-time capacity, or do you just do it on occasion?
Yeah, just on occasion.
About how often a month?
It varies. A couple times to 15 times. It just depends.
Now, you were working then as a rapid responder in 2014?
Yes,
At that time, you were acquainted with Robert Limon.
yes.
When did you first meet Robert Limon?
Probably 2000.
Okay. Did you meet Robert while working for the BNSF
Yes.
company? And where did you meet him at?
Probably at work.
In city?
In Barstow.
How big is that rail yard in Barstow?
As far as people or
Yeah.
probably 150 carmen or so.
So was Robert just someone that you knew from work, or was it he somebody that you became good friends with?
Yeah, we became friends.
How close were you?
Pretty close.
Did you ever socialize outside of work?
Yeah,
What types of things would you do to socialize with Rob outside of work?
we would play golf a lot.
You say a lot. How often?
We used to play like every Thursday morning, but
So Robert was someone that you would see at least once a week.
oh yeah,
Did you see him more than that?
yeah. We worked together for years.
So you would spend time with Robert at work. You would spend time with Robert outside of work as well.
Yeah.
Do you know, are you aware of the time frame when Robert Limon also became a rapid responder in Tehachapi?
I think it was a week or two right after me.
So
In
if you could-
2007.
Now, did you ever work the same shift as him up there, or you just were aware that he would go up there?
Yeah, maybe every once in a while they would have two, but very rarely. You just work by yourself, so you'd cover each other.
What was Rob like?
He's a good guy. Good guy, nice friend.
Did you ever meet his family?
Yeah.
When did you meet Sabrina?
I don't know a date.
Okay. Can you give an approximate year?
I don't know, 2003, 2004. I don't know.
So you hung out with Robert Limon a lot. Did you see Sabrina much?
No, just here and there.
When you say here and there, what do you mean?
When we went and played golf, he had the golf cart, so I'd park at the house and get the golf cart and go from there.
Okay. If you could just pull the microphone a little bit. Thank you. I want to take you forward to August 15th of 2014. Do you recall working a shift around that time?
That was
Right before
Friday.
Robert's death, yes.
I know I worked Saturday.
Okay. Now, where did you work at on Saturday?
Tehachapi.
Who were you working for?
Corey Hamilton.
Now, on that Saturday, August 16, 2014, did you call Robert Limon in the morning?
Yes.
And why did you call Robert?
Because Corey called and asked if I could cover Sunday.
Okay. So Corey wanted you to cover Sunday, August 17th shift as well.
Yes.
What time was the shift that he wanted to have covered?
Days, 7 to 7, 7 in the morning to 7 p.m.
So just so I know how it goes, Corey called you,
Yes.
and you were already working?
I was already at work, yes.
Okay. And so based on that, you called Robert.
I called Rob.
Did Robert agree to work that shift?
Yes.
So the shift on Sunday, August 17, 2014, was he covering your shift or Corey Hamilton's shift?
Corey's shift.
Corey's shift, okay. Do you remember what time you called Robert Limon on August 16th?
Between 9 and 10 in the morning, somewhere around there.
Okay. Now, when you called, who answered the phone?
Sabrina.
What, if anything, do you recall her saying to you?
Really nothing. She just answered, said, Rob's right here.
So basically a handoff of a phone?
Yeah.
Beyond asking Rob to work the shift the next day, did you have any further conversation with him?
No.
Now, when did you learn that Robert was dead?
Probably 6 or so, 7.
And that would be August 17, 2014, the day he
Yes.
died. Do you remember who called you?
Corey.
Now, after you learned that he was deceased, that being Robert, what did you do?
I kind of freaked out.
Okay. Did you speak with law enforcement?
That day, no.
Okay. Did you ever speak with law enforcement?
Later.
Do you recall who you spoke with?
Most of the stuff went through Gates, through the BNSF.
When you say Gates, that's the BNSF police officer,
Yes.
Joseph Gates. Now, at the time of his death, were you aware whether or not Robert had any beefs or arguments with anyone?
No.
Were you aware whether or not he was involved in, or he had any issues with infidelity within his marriage?
No.
Do you recall being asked those questions?
I don't think so.
You said that you'd been working at the shop in Tehachapi since about 2007.
Yes.
If you could describe where it's located at.
1582 Goodrich.
Can you describe the building that it's in?
It's an industrial shop.
Okay. What kind of markings are to the front that shows that it's a BNSF shop?
Just the markings on the parking blocks.
Sir, could you do me a favor? Speak up a little bit.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, the markings on the parking block.
When you're saying a parking lot, those are cement items
Yeah.
that stop a car.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other sign to the front of the building?
No.
Has there ever been since you began working there in 2007?
No.
When the sliding door is down, is there a sign that says BNSF on the sliding door?
No.
How would somebody find out where the shop is that you work at in Tehachapi
If they didn't know,
if they didn't know?
I don't know.
Now, working for BNSF, are a lot of other employees of that same company aware of where that shop in Tehachapi even is?
No.
Prior to beginning to work there in 2007, were you aware of where the shop was at?
No.
Now, how do you spell your first name?
John, John.
John. Did you ever go by just shorter, like John, Jon?
No.
No? Okay. These are going to seem like kind of random questions, but how tall are you?
6'3".
6'3". How much do you weigh?
Like 235.
235. Again, these are going to seem random. Do you consider yourself to have a large nose?
No.
Okay. Do you own any motorcycles?
Not anymore. No.
Have you ever owned a chopper-style motorcycle?
No.
Have you ever had any beefs or arguments with Robert Limon?
No.
Nothing further.
Terry Cross.
Good afternoon, Mr. Justice.
Hello.
Mr. Justice, can you tell me approximately how many times you've actually in person met or talked with Sabrina Limon?
I'm 20.
And prior to Rob's murder, other than talking to her on the phone, when was the last time before that you'd actually seen her?
I wouldn't even know.
Was it within that year of 2014, if you know?
Probably not.
So it could have been a year or 2 years before that.
Oh, yeah.
And during the entire time that you knew Robert, was he married to Sabrina?
Yes.
They've been together the whole time that you knew him,
Yeah.
up until his death, right?
Yes.
would it be safe to say that other than working with him and maybe now and again getting together for a drink after work or going golfing with him, that was the extent of the social interaction you had with him?
Yeah.
Were you never went over to his home for dinner or a barbecue or anything?
We had a barbecue one time at the park or something.
At the park?
Yeah, we went to a park.
Was-
From his house.
Was his family there?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, it might have been before the kids, so.
Might have been before the kids.
Yeah, it's,
Okay. So sometime around 2003,
yeah, somewhere in
give or
there.
take.
I don't remember exactly, but
And would it be safe to say that Rob was not one to really talk much about his marital life with you? Such as him saying anything about him having marital problems?
no.
In other words, when it came to his family life and his marital life, that really wasn't a big subject of discussion between you and Rob, right?
No.
Pretty much limited to common interests in golf.
Yeah, with the kids. We talked about the kids.
And you talked about his kids and
Yeah.
your kids.
Yeah.
Was any of your kids involved in sports with his
No,
kids?
my kids are older.
Just talk about generally about what the kids were doing.
Yeah.
Did you ever get any indication from him that he was not happy with his marital life?
Objection here, sir.
I'll read.
Overruled. You can
Okay.
answer.
Say again?
Yeah, did you ever hear, or did Rob ever express to you that he had any problems with his marital life?
No.
So if there was, he never expressed it to you.
No.
Now, you mentioned, you actually said the address for the shop up in Tehachapi, is that right?
Yeah.
Did you actually know it at the time, or have you learned it since?
I've learned it since.
Okay. And is there a series of commercial buildings? In other words, a number of different companies having those buildings along there?
Yes.
Okay. And do each of them have signs out in front of them saying what business is at that location?
I don't, not hardly any of them. Most of them aren't marked.
Now, you said that the only way you would know is by the BNSF that's stenciled onto the parking blocks, if you will?
Yeah.
Okay. Or it would be that if one of the BNSF trucks were parked right in front?
Yeah.
That would be another way to tell? Or if the big door was up and you saw a BNSF truck parked right there inside the shop, right?
Yeah.
That's one way you could also tell that that was probably a BNSF location, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, you indicated you don't own or have never owned any motorcycles?
I don't own one now. A street bike I've never owned.
Street bike you've never owned,
No.
but you've owned other, like
Yeah,
dirt bikes?
quads and dirt bikes.
Oh, okay. I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Justice.
Smith,
Nothing further.
you step down, sir. Thank you. Mr. Smith,
We'll call Mark Greeley.
Would you come forward, step up to the podium, raise your right hand, and be sworn?
You do solemnly state the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Come on up, have a seat. Good afternoon, sir. Can you tell us your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Mark Reilly, M-A-R-K-R-I-E-H-L-E.
Your witness, counselor.
Thank you. How are you employed?
I am employed by the Kern County Sheriff's Office. I'm an evidence technician.
What are your primary duties as an evidence technician?
As an evidence technician, I respond to crime scenes where I photograph, document, and seize items of evidence. I process evidence for latent fingerprints. I conduct fingerprint examinations for the purpose of identification, create crime scene diagrams, and testify in court as needed, among other duties.
As part of those duties, did you respond to 15170 Lime Street on November 18, 2014?
Yes, I did.
Why did you go to that location?
I was assisting in a search warrant of that location.
Okay. Was a Detective Kenzo Lackey present?
Yes.
Do you know how to spell his last name?
Lackey.
Now, as to that search, was he the primary detective kind of pointing things out to you?
Yes.
Can you describe the condition of the exterior of the residence that you were part of the search of?
It was, as far as I remember, it was a normal residence, high desert location. I believe it was dirt around the residence. It had a driveway, concrete driveway, shrubbery, trees.
Now, the residence itself, do you recall what it was like, how big it was?
The residence that we searched was a back residence, and if I remember, it was a one-bedroom residence with a kitchen, attached garage. It seemed the garage was possibly bigger than the living quarters itself.
Okay. Now, you said it's a back residence?
Yes.
Residence. So if you could just describe the whole property itself, if you recall.
To the best of my recollection, the front residence was a more normal, quote, normal house, possibly more than one bedroom. And then behind that residence, you could access via a driveway. The rear residence, which we searched, was the smaller residence with the attached garage.
Now, when you searched that rear residence, was there other detectives besides Detective Lackey?
Yes.
When you were searching the residence, do you recall if you searched the other buildings that surrounded that apartment? I guess back residence, as you called it.
I'm not completely aware of what all the other detectives were doing at the time. I don't know if they examined any other areas other than the residence and the garage itself.
Okay. Well, in your presence, did you see or did you search any other buildings besides the residence and the attached garage?
To my recollection, no.
In the photographs that you took, there is a nearby chicken coop. Did you take any photographs of that?
I don't recall specifically a chicken coop.
Okay. So that would be no.
No.
Your Honor, if I may approach, I haven't had a moment.
Please.
Equals 13 for our next voter.
Let me approach the witness.
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as People's 13, do you recognize the CD shown to you earlier?
Yes.
The photographs contained on that CD, do you recognize them as photographs taken by you?
Yes.
November 18, 2014.
That's correct.
They're an accurate representation of what you saw and also what you ultimately seized.
Yes.
Your Your Honor, I would request Peoples 13 be moved into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
Submitted.
Will be admitted. Proceed, Mr. Smith.
Drawing your attention to the photograph up on the scene, in the upper left-hand portion, there's an identifier currently labeled as MJR8276.
Yes.
MJR stands for?
My initials and whatever order, numerical order the camera places.
Now, in reference to these photographs, I'm just going to use the numerical identifier prior to my question. Starting with photograph 8276, if you could describe what the photograph is of, what you're taking a picture of.
Okay, Your Honor, I do have my notes. May I refer to those if that would help my recollection?
Mr. Terry?
If I can see the notes.
Sure.
Sure.
Mr. Smith, have you seen those?
It's my report that I think you've probably seen, and then I have thumbnails that have all the corresponding numbers.
How many pictures are on that reel, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
How many photographs are you going to show? Oh, okay. Thank you. So Terry, you satisfied?
I'm satisfied, Your
All
Honor.
right. Proceed, Mr. Smith.
Starting with 8276, please describe.
This is an overall of the south-facing part of the rear residence, south to north. You can see the driveway and the yard area.
Now, when you say attached garage, that is the garage door to the right.
Yes,
When you say back residence, that's entrance is the door to the left.
that's correct.
Photograph 8304.
That is a photograph of a motorcycle that was found in the garage, and you can see it was covered with some kind of reddish fabric.
Photograph 8305.
And that is the motorcycle with that piece of fabric removed.
Photograph 8306.
And another photograph of that motorcycle from the opposite side.
Photograph 8308.
8308. That is... That is an overall of brown shorts, black, and black tank top with blue trim found in the laundry room basket in the bedroom closet.
So in this photograph, you're just taking photographs of all the items pulled out of a laundry basket, correct?
Correct.
83012.
That is a handwritten note from the left front pocket of the brown shorts.
Going back to 8308, the brown shorts in that photograph, that is where the note was located.
Yes.
8316.
That is an overall of the upper portion of the closet in the bedroom, I believe.
8318.
8318 is an overall of the helmet, motorcycle helmet that was found on the upper shelf.
8320.
And that is the contents of the motorcycle helmet.
8329.
329. Say 329. Excuse me, there's a lot of photographs. This is a handwritten note from the vanity case found in the closet.
Okay. 8330.
330. And that is an overall of a Ruger 1022 rifle from the closet.
8331.
And that is a close-up of a Taurus 45 caliber semi-automatic handgun found in a Glock case under the sewing machine in the bedroom.
So the case it was in is from a different manufacturer firearm.
Yes.
Do you recall taking a photograph of a Glock in that room? A Glock 21?
I would have to look through all my notes specifically to find that. If
We'll come back to that after.
okay.
8333.
And that's a close-up of the firearm as well as the magazine removed from that firearm.
8334.
And that is a black and blue backpack found under the sewing machine.
8345.
And that is a photograph from a cardboard box from the top shelf of the bookshelf.
Eight three five six.
And that is a receipt from a plastic bag found in the bedroom.
8362.
A box of syringes and other prescription items from the rafter on the northwest wall of the garage.
And when you say prescription items, did you write down what type of items we're talking about?
I did not get specific in my notes of what kind of prescription items.
8363.
Those are letters and photographs and notes of houses and daily interactions log from the second shelf of the bookcase.
You testified earlier you're working in conjunction with Detective Lackey.
Yes.
The items that he directed you to, did you personally seize them once he directed you to them?
Yes, I did.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Terry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Reilly.
Good afternoon.
A little while.
It's been a while.
Mr. Reilly, would it be safe to say that you didn't actually conduct the search?
That would be accurate.
What you did was you documented items that were pointed out to you by the detectives who did the search.
That's correct.
And you photographed them to document that they found them
Correct. Usually in the position they were found.
as best you could.
Yes.
Now, was there more than one detective working with you that day to conduct the search?
There were other detectives there that if they would find something, they would bring it to my attention, and I would, as I had time, I would go and photograph and document what they had found in other locations.
Do you recall approximately how many police or detectives were present conducting the search of that residence?
I do not recall the specific number. I would hate to guess.
Okay. Well, then I won't ask you to do that. Can you recall some of the detectives who were present besides Detective Lackey, to the best of your recollection?
It was almost 3 years ago, and for my note taking, it's not critical that I put that information in my report. So, Detective Lackey is the only one I specifically remember being there.
Okay. Would it be safe to say, other than you were not pointing to any items other than in the attached garage and inside the house itself?
That's correct.
And nothing other than taking overall exterior shots of the residence outside, you weren't directed as to anything particular evidentiary items that were then seized
Correct.
on the exterior.
Correct.
Everything that you were involved in photographing and seizing was from either in the garage or inside the residence.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Thank you.
Smith.
Your Honor, I need to find two items in the pile of evidence, so if we could take an early break.
Your Honor, I apologize. I do have one other question. I apologize. I'm sorry, counsel.
He's
just
up there. Let's do it.
Okay, real quick. What day was it you actually conducted the search?
The search was, we arrived at the location on August 17th, 2014 at approximately 5:45 p.m. I'm sorry. Correction. November 18th, 2014.
Okay, that sounds more logical. You had me
Yes.
scared there. You were actually doing it at the same time that the homicide was
No.
being committed, potentially. All right, thank you. No further questions.
Yes.
So Smith, you need a minute to go through that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we'll take our afternoon recess there. 15 minutes. See you back at 3:15. Remember not
6, back in session.
All right, we'll go back on the record in People versus Limon. She's present in court with her attorney, and the people are represented. You have Investigator Really on the stand, still subject to direct by Mr. Smith. And all 12 plus 4 on the box. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Mr. Smith, if you'd like to continue, sir.
Thank you. If I can approach, I had some items marked.
Sure. What do we have marked, Madam Clerk?
Equals 14, 15, and 16, mark next in order.
Yes, record reflect Mr. Terry's seen those. Go ahead.
We'll start with People's 14. If you could review that packet of photographs, please.
Okay.
You recognize the photographs?
Yes,
Who took those photographs?
I took the photographs.
Is that from November 18, 2014?
Yes.
And what are they photographs of?
There are photographs of the living area and the kitchen, photographs of the bedroom from a few different directions, and a photograph of the doorways leading to the bathroom, the closet, and then an overall of the closet.
So those are photographs of the living space that you searched along with the detectives November 18, 2014.
Yes.
Showing you now People's 15 and 16. If you could look at both of those, please.
Okay.
There is a identifying marker on both of those. If you could find the item that is marked 19TI/B.
Okay.
What is that item?
(19TI/B). That is a handwritten note from the left front pocket of item 1.
Okay. And what is item 1?
Item 1 is brown shorts from the laundry basket.
Okay. Moving on to item 19TI/C. You could describe that item, please, and also the exhibit number.
Now you're saying 19. I have 1C on mine. Do we have different?
-1C.
Okay, 1C. Correct. 1C is multiple Post-it notes from the left front pocket of item 1.
Okay. And again, item 1 is the brown shorts found in the hamper.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would request People's 14 through 16 cumulative evidence at this time.
Any objection, Mr. Terry?
Submitted.
That'll be admitted.
Nothing further.
Mr. Terry?
I have no questions this time around.
Did you step down, sir? Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I apologize.
That's all right.
You have a couple. During the course of this search, did you locate any poison?
I don't believe I documented any poison.
How about a broken laptop screen?
I don't recall any broken laptop screen.
How about a small SD card for a computer or some other, like a phone device, that type of thing?
I do not believe so, no.
Receipt for clothing of any type?
I don't recall a receipt for clothing.
How about a sound suppressor for a firearm?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Smith?
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, you can step down. Mr. Smith?
People call Detective Kenzo Lackey.
Sir, could you step up to the podium, raise your right hand and be sworn, please?
You do solemnly state that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Come on up, have a seat. Good afternoon, sir. Can you tell us your name and spell your first and last name for the record?
First name is Kenzo, spelled Kenzo. Last name is Lackey, Lackey.
Thank you. Your witness, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. How are you currently employed?
As a detective with the Kern County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been a detective?
over 3 years.
November 18, 2014, did you respond to the boron substation?
Yes.
Okay, why did you go to that location?
To meet Sergeant Simpson regarding the execution of a search warrant.
What time did you arrive?
I don't recall what time I arrived at the substation.
It was in the morning, the afternoon?
Afternoon.
How long did you remain at the boron substation?
Just long enough to be briefed, so it would be minutes.
And where did you proceed from there?
We drove to an address on Lime Street in Hesperia.
When you say we, who are we talking about?
I followed other detectives.
Do you recall the other detectives that went with you?
Yes, there would have been Detective Contreras, Sergeant Avery Simpson, Sergeant Billy Smallwood, numerous other detectives.
Your Honor, if I may approach, have an item marked.
People 17 marked next in order.
Let me approach the witness.
Yes, sir.
Showing you People's 17. You recognize the aerial photographs contained in People's 17.
Yes, I do.
The location that you searched November 18, 2014. You can look at the second photograph as well.
Yes, sir. This is the house that we executed the search warrant.
Okay. Do you recall going to the back residence to do the search?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would request People 17 be moved into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Terry?
Submitted.
To be admitted. permission to publish granted. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Detective Lackey, do you recall searching the residence behind the primary residence November 18, 2014?
Yes, sir.
Now, there is some outlying, what appears to be a small building to the left. Do you recall searching that? Yes.
No.
No. Did you observe any other detectives searching that location?
Not that I recall.
As to the area you searched, can you just describe what did you search exterior-wise and interior-wise?
Yes, sir. So that residence in the back is a single bedroom, like a giant converted garage with a small kitchen, dining area, washroom, and closet. I searched inside that residence, including all the rooms and the actual garage itself.
Now, did you go around the outside and make a search as well?
I walked around that house. However, I did not search the surrounding area.
When you were walking around the house, did you see other detectives searching any other locations other than the residence and the garage?
Not that I recall.
Now, what was the condition of the garage?
A mess.
Who assisted you in searching the garage?
Detective Contreras.
Now, how were the duties assigned between yourself and the other detectives?
I was in charge of documenting the execution of the search warrant at that house, including the items that were seized.
Did you work in conjunction with technical investigator Reilly, who just testified?
Yes.
Did you direct him to photograph certain items and seize certain items as well?
Yes.
Did you locate any items within that residence that denoted that Jonathan Hearn was the resident?
Yes.
What did you find?
Immediately upon entering the house, I found a letter addressed to Jonathan Hearn, along with a note indicating that he had paid rent.
Now, did you search the room?
Yes.
How about the closet?
Yes.
Did you locate anything in a clothing hamper?
Yes, I did.
Describe what you found.
I found a black and blue tank top and shorts.
Okay. Did you locate any items within the shorts?
Yes. In the front left pocket of the shorts, there were little Post-it type notes and a handwritten document.
I may approach. Yes. Showing you what's been marked and moved into evidence, peoples 15 and 16. You recognize those items?
I immediately recognized this item. However, I would have to open this bag to look at this item.
And if you could just describe which exhibit you're talking about.
This looks like this is going to be the large piece of paper that was inside the left pocket of the shorts.
Okay, and if you could just, what's the people's exhibit number in red right there?
16.
Okay. Go ahead and open people's 16.
That is definitely the document I found.
And then People's 15, the Post-it notes, those are the items you found as well.
Yes, sir.
Did you observe any guns, any ammunition within that same bedroom?
Yes, sir.
What did you observe?
There was a 10-22 Ruger rifle in the closet. There was a antique firearm in the bedroom area inside of the drawer. And there was also a Taurus brand .45 caliber pistol inside of a Glock case underneath the antique sewing table.
Now, did you direct all of those firearms be seized?
Yes.
Okay. Did you locate any ammunition, any magazines?
Yes.
What did you find?
The .45 caliber pistol was loaded with a magazine that had 6 rounds. And underneath the Glock gun case, there was a cardboard box that had several magazines, and there were also several rounds of .45 ammunition in there.
Now, what, if anything, was located in the garage that you found significant?
There was a motorcycle helmet and a iPad mini, or I apologize, some type of iPad device box inside of an aluminum trash can. There was also a black Yamaha motorcycle.
What happened with the black Yamaha motorcycle?
It was seized and taken to the sheriff's office.
Nothing further.
Rob?
Good afternoon, Detective Black.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. If I understand you correctly, the ones officers that you recall going with you to the Lime Street location from the Boron substation, I want to make sure I got the names. You had yourself, Detective Contreras, Sergeant Simpson, and then was it Sergeant Smallwood?
Those are some of them. I have a list naming several officers involved that I can read from if it would help you, sir.
If that would help you in refreshing your recollection as to who all was involved in this search.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, please.
All right, sir, it would be Detective Rutledge, Detective Grantham, Detective Hubbard, Sergeant Smallwood. And I know earlier I had mentioned Sergeant Simpson, however, I'm not sure what his extent was in that.
So you've got Contreras, Simpson, you think, Smallwood, Rutledge, and Hubbard?
Yes, sir. Oh, no, Grantham.
Grant, I'm sorry. Okay. Now you referenced all of them being present, and it's your recollection, at least you never searched any of the outbuildings around the residence, is that right?
That's correct.
To your knowledge, did anyone?
Not that I know of.
Now, your search warrant, I'm sure, based upon my experience in dealing with search warrants, is it includes not only the main building, but any outbuildings, right? Within contiguous to the residence you're searching, right?
I don't know, and I do not recall what the specific limitations were for that search warrant.
Certainly would normally you would you not also in your warrant request to be able to search any outbuildings contiguous to the property?
I don't think I completely understand your question, sir.
Sure. Have you authored very many search warrants?
Absolutely.
Have you ever done a search warrant for a residence?
Yes, sir.
And in the language of the search warrant, when you're requesting to have the search warrant issued for a residence, don't you also request to be able to search any outbuildings, such as storage buildings?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about. You understand now? So there were outbuildings other than just the main residence in the second residence behind the front residence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But you don't know the extent of your warrant and what areas you could search at the time you were doing the searching. Is that right?
No, that's not correct.
Okay. Did you understand that the warrant included any outbuildings that were contiguous to the residence you were searching?
I don't remember if the search warrant had that or not.
And so we're also clear this is a search that was conducted on November 18th of 2014. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you also mentioned that some of the area that was searched was the garage. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that actually physically searched by yourself or by other detectives?
Both.
Okay. What areas in the garage did you physically search?
Well, I walked through nearly every square foot of that garage.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as, what your definition is of search, is it physically walking through it or picking out boxes?
Well, during the course, you're doing a search, and I'm sure you were briefed on what type of case you were doing a search for, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, probably at the boron substation, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm certain Sergeant Simpson briefed you on what it is that you were trying to locate, if anything, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were aware that this was a homicide involving the use of a firearm, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you searched the garage, what areas in the garage, in other words, did you search boxes, any type of container in the garage?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What containers did you search personally?
I personally looked inside of at least one cardboard box, and I personally looked inside of at least one trash can.
And that was it?
Well, that's the only one I'm willing to testify to right now that I have documented or photographs of.
Okay. Or that you recall. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And certainly in your report, you would have documented any other areas or any other containers you might have searched within the garage, right?
Not necessarily.
No, you would not?
Not necessarily.
Now, other than in the garage, the areas you personally searched, is that the bedroom area?
That is one of the other areas I searched.
Okay. In conjunction with other officers who were assisting?
Yes, sir.
Or was this a union job? One guy's doing the search and the other's standing around?
Not necessarily. I can explain to you the way it works if you're interested.
Well, explain to us what was done in this occasion.
All right. So the typical routine, and this occasion also, is when I arrive, I walk through with technical investigator Reilly, and we photograph everything.
Okay.
And we walk around the entire inside the building, outside, and then him and I start seizing evidence, obviously photographing it. And at this time, other detectives can assist with searching, as in was this case. However, it's not, just a crazy bonanza or anything.
Well, if you're trying to find evidence in a potential crime scene, which technically this would be considered one, right?
Yes, sir.
Then you would tend to want to be somewhat systematic in the search of that crime scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you would want to certainly document by means of photographs or sketches or diagrams of some type where items were located during the course of your search. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So obviously you need people who are, you did a walkthrough and did the overalls with a technical investigator really initially, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that, I understand. You want to get an overall as to the condition of the residence at the time you entered, right?
Yes, sir.
Then, during the course of the search, you're searching through certain locations, and then you're making observations as to what you believe could be relevant. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then you remove those items from wherever you find them, and you document them by photographing them and that type of stuff. Is that right?
Not necessarily.
Okay. You wouldn't photograph the items, say, in place where you found them first?
That's generally how it works, sir.
Okay. Then, if you needed a clearer photograph, you might remove them and, say, spread them out on a bed or on a sheet or something along those lines so you could see them, be able to observe those items more clearly. Would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's kind of what you did in this instance, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you and the detectives you were working with on that particular day remove all the items that were in the garage and search all the containers within the garage?
No.
And obviously you don't know about the outbuilding. You weren't involved in any search of any outbuilding. Is that right?
That's correct.
If I may approach.
Please.
Fortunately, I guess the court does not have any gloves. I don't necessarily.
I don't have any gloves on me either, sir.
I was afraid of that. There was an item of evidence you took out of the bag, and you said you thought that was the note. Is that right?
Well, we had two different items that came out of there. We
There was
have
the
the
one with
Post-it.
the large folded up note.
That would be there, sir.
Okay, and that was in this particular, and
Yes.
this was the Post-its that you found in the shorts also. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just want to be sure which one was which. Thank you. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Nothing else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Just step down, Detective. Thank you. Blackie, you're not taking anything that was marked there, right?
I just checked, Your Honor.
All right.
I just checked. We're good.
Mr. Smith, would you be kind enough to hand those back to Madam Clerk? Thank you. Next witness, Counselor.
Call Deputy Mountjoy.
Sir, could you step up to the podium, raise your right hand, and be sworn, please?
You do solemnly state that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Come on, have a seat. Good afternoon, sir. Can you tell us your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Sean Mountjoy. Mountjoy is Mountjoy.
Thank you. You're a witness, counsel.
How are you currently employed?
I'm employed by the Kern County Sheriff's Office as a deputy sheriff.
What is your current assignment?
Currently, I'm assigned to the Tehachapi substation as a patrol deputy.
Taking you back to November of 2014, what was your assignment at that time?
I was assigned to a undercover unit called the Special Operations Group.
What were your duties as part of the undercover unit?
Several things, including undercover surveillance, purchase of narcotics, weapons, anything where an undercover officer may be needed.
Now, were you tasked in November of 2014 with surveilling either Jonathan Hearn or Sabrina Limon?
Yes, I was.
Now, when you were doing surveillance, did you do that by yourself or with another officer?
It was with other members of my unit.
Okay. Do you recall when you began assisting in the surveillance of Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina?
It was shortly after they became suspects. I don't recall the specific time, but we started the constant surveillance right when the wiretap was initiated.
So when they initially became suspects, what type of surveillance did you do?
We would do covert surveillance, such as watching their day-to-day actions, what their normal MO was throughout the day, whether they met up together, went out to eat together, if Sabrina's children with them, things of that sort.
Okay. And then you said after the wiretap began, you were in constant surveillance?
That's correct.
What type of vehicle were you in when you were doing the surveillance?
Then I believe I was in a half-ton Dodge Ram.
Did you ever drive a red Nissan Titan?
No.
Any of your partners that you were working with drive a red Nissan Titan for their duties?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There are absolutely no Nissan Titans assigned to our division.
During the time of your surveillance, did you ever observe Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina Limon together?
Yes, on several occasions.
Where at?
In one instance, we were at Round Table Pizza, I believe in Apple Valley, where I ate dinner basically right next to them.
Do you know the date when you did that, or at least the time frame?
It was within the first week of the wiretap, I'd say. I don't recall a specific date.
Okay. And the wiretap began in the first week of November, correct?
Yes, it did.
2014?
Yes.
You said there was more than one occasion where you observed Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina together during the pendency of the wiretap?
That's correct.
What is the other time besides Round Table Pizza?
There was another instance, I believe, is at a frozen yogurt type place.
Now, when you're doing the surveillance, are you relaying information back to the detectives, or what's the purpose?
Basically, surveillance is for intelligence gathering, just to figure out anything we can about them. Of course, confirming relationships with one another or other people that we're unaware of. Maybe different friends, families, associates. It's essentially just intelligence gathering and, of course, a potential for evidence gathering if the option arises.
Okay. Now, were you aware of the time whether or not Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina Limon were in a relationship?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Were you aware whether or not, for sure, that Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina Limon were in a relationship when you were surveilling them?
I was definitely convinced they were in a relationship.
And what convinced you of that, based on what you observed?
It appeared Jonathan Hearn almost looked like a father figure type of role, as he would allow the kids to play video games like at Round Table Pizza. He'd give them a bunch of quarters. They'd go play the video games, arcade games, as he and Sabrina would sit and talk in private. They appeared very close to one another, would touch one another, hug each other, kiss, just as a normal couple would.
Now, when you were surveilling them and you saw them together, was that in Hellendale?
No, I believe that was in Apple Valley.
Where is Apple Valley in relation to Hesperia?
It's just north of Hesperia.
During any of your surveillance, did you see Sabrina Limon and Jonathan Hearn together in either Hesperia or Hellendale?
I don't recall any specific times, no.
Now, were you involved in...
I'm sorry, I remembered one time.
Okay, go ahead.
It was actually at Sabrina's residence on Strawberry Lane, I believe it was, where he was there. It was prior to the wiretap on his motorcycle.
How long prior to the wiretap did you make this observation?
That was maybe a week or two prior.
Okay. Were you involved in the arrest of Jonathan Hearn?
Yes, I was.
Okay, where was he arrested at?
That was in Redlands at the fire station. And he was inside the fire truck, actually.
Now, after he was arrested, where did you take him?
We transported him up to Atalano, where a additional deputy, patrol deputy, had picked him up, and then transported him to the Boron substation.
Were you involved in the arrest of Sabrina Limon?
Yes, I was.
See her in court today?
Yes, I do.
Describe her location, what she's wearing, please.
Yes, she is seated to my left, wearing a black sport coat next to counsel.
Indicating for the record the defendant.
And where were you when you arrested Miss Limon?
That was in Hellendale at the elementary school.
What time was it when you arrested Miss Limon?
I believe it was morning, maybe early afternoon.
After you made the arrest, what did you do?
We transported her to the Boron substation. It was Sergeant Harbor and I, and then we drove down to the fire station.
Okay. So your first arrest was Sabrina Limon. Your second arrest was Jonathan Hearn.
That's correct.
Now, did you seize any items from Jonathan Hearn?
Yes, he had a cell phone on him. I believe his wallet. I don't recall any other items specifically.
Okay, staying with the cell phone. And do you recall what type of cell phone it was?
Yes, it was an iPhone.
Okay. Did you book that item or provide it to another deputy?
I provided to the deputy that was transporting Jonathan up to the Boron substation.
As part of the investigation, did you also review cell phone records relating to some cellular phones?
I did.
Your Honor, if I may approach, have an item marked.
Equals 18 and 19 mark next in order.
Yes. Start with People's 18. Do you recognize the envelope?
Yes, I do.
Did you review the records contained within that envelope?
I'm sorry?
Did you review the CD contained within the envelope?
Yes, I did.
Just as to the front of the number that pertains to?
The phone number is 760-998-7958, and I recognize that to be the quote-unquote burner phone that Sabrina had received.
Drawing your attention now to People's 19. Did you also review the CD contained within People's 19?
Yes, I did.
You could provide me the CD.
The number on the CD? Or-
Were those marked previously, counsel, from a different hearing?
Yes.
People's 18A and 19A marked next to order.
Your Honor, I would request People's 18 and 18A be moved into evidence at this time. They are certified or subpoenaed records that were received at the court. People's 18 and 18A received from Verizon Wireless. There is an affidavit attached noting it's for the mobile phone number of 760-998-7958.
Terry, you've had a chance to see those.
Yes.
Any objection? They'll be admitted, counsel.
I would also request in relation to 19 and the CD 19A, that is in relation to the phone number 760-987-3569, received from T-Mobile Wireless. There's also an affidavit attached to the front of that envelope.
Terry, you've seen those?
Yes.
Any objection? They'll be admitted.
Your Honor, can we have a brief sidebar?
You bet. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, please. opportunity to speak to counsel at sidebar. Mr. Terry needs to make a copy of that, ladies and gentlemen, which apparently he can do here in court, so hold on 1 second, okay? All set, Mr. Terry?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Smith, you'd like to continue?
If I can approach them.
You bet.
Equals 20, mark next in order.
Let me approach the witness.
Please.
Showing you People's 20, do you recognize the CD?
Yes, I do.
You could just describe in general what are the contents of the CD.
Basically, this contains an Excel file of what's called call detail records with cell site database. So basically, it's whatever a phone call is placed or received, terminated, or a text message. And anything that happens with a cell phone, it basically gets put into Excel format. And it also has a cell site database, which includes the tower identifications, the azimuth of the cell sectors, things of that sort. And so that's basically all that's really contained into here. And it's also got a redacted version of that to just show phone calls between Sabrina and Jonathan.
Now, the information that's contained on the CD number 20 is redacted from what's been moved into evidence, People's 18, People's 19.
That's correct.
And what days were redacted from People's 18, People's 19, placed onto People's 20?
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, for the record, People's 20 is what Mr. Terry made a copy of.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes. It'd be, April 25th, 2014, and August 16th and 17th of 2014.
Any other days?
It would be the 23rd of April, I believe.
If you could review the front of the CD.
Remove it real quick. It'd be May 23rd. Okay. My apologies.
Now, when you were, taking the Excel spreadsheet from the entirety of the records down to a redacted, what information did you use to filter?
Essentially, you use a filter option on Excel. You click on it, it brings a drop-down menu, and you can just unselect all phone numbers and then just select the two phone numbers that you want to, during that time, and then you also select the dates that you want. And so it just eliminates anything that you don't need, so you can focus on specific dates or times.
Your Honor, I would request People's 20 be moved into evidence at this time, be allowed to publish.
Any objection, Mr. Terry?
Submitted.
To be admitted. Permission granted, counsel.
Drawing your attention to what is labeled April 25th, 2014 for 760-998-7958. What phone does that pertain to?
That's Sabrina's burner phone.
Opening up the spreadsheet, if you could just describe what we're looking at.
Basically, I'm not 100% sure if I can read it from here, but the far left column, it says the network element name. That's more or less the antenna's name for that various section where the cell towers are located. The mobile directory number, that's just the phone number, including area code. The dialed digit numbers, that's specifically what the device was dialed. Whatever somebody pressed in the phone, that's what's going to show up there. I believe the next one's call direction.
Yes, call direction.
Call direction, that's basically just describing was an incoming or outgoing phone call. That would be the seizure date and time. Seizure date and time is simply the date and time that was made. Most of the time, the records will be in like UTC or GMT time, which we then later convert to be Pacific Standard Time. The seizure duration, that'll be the amount of time that they were on the phone in seconds, specifically for T-Mobile records. The first serving cell site, that will be in reference to if you make a phone call and you're driving down the road, that's the first cell tower that you're connected to. And then if there's a second, there'll be a switch and it'll be your second serving cell tower. Or here it refers to as the last serving cell tower. I can't read the last two columns.
It says last serving a cell face and calling party number.
Okay, so the last serving cell face, that will be the antenna or cell sector in which it hit. So there's basically three sides to a cell tower typically, and they cover around 120 degrees each to cover a full 360 degrees. And then the calling party number is, again, who was making the phone call. The number is physically making the number. The number is physically making the phone call.
So just to step through, starting with the first line, the phone number 998-7958 dialed the number 760-987-3569 on April 25th and spoke for 955 seconds, or about 15 minutes.
That's correct.
Okay. The number 760-987-3569, whose phone is that?
That'd be Jonathan Hearn's phone.
Okay. And then later on, at 19:30 hours, again, 760-998-7958 calls Jonathan Hearn's phone, and again for about 15 minutes.
That's correct.
Now, as to the phone records for 760-998-7958, on what day is that phone initiated or begun to be used?
That was the May 23rd date where it dropped off. Oh, I'm sorry, where the 998 number picked up.
As to the date currently up there, April 25th?
Yes, April 25th is the actual date, yes.
Okay. So the first day that the phone is used, the burner phone, what is that date?
That's 4/25/2014.
Okay. Now moving on to what's labeled May 23rd, 2014, for the phone number 760-987-3569, opening up that spreadsheet. What carrier are these records from?
Those are T-Mobile.
Okay. And this has the similar information of what you've testified to as to start time and what phones are making those calls, correct?
That's correct.
Now, when you did the redacted version, you selected calls between Jonathan Hearn's phone and Sabrina's burner phone, correct?
That is correct.
Moving on to August 16th through 17th, from 760-987-3569. If you could describe what you've redacted in this spreadsheet.
Can you say one more time, please?
Just describe what you've redacted in this spreadsheet for the 16th and 17th of August.
For the 16th and 17th, I just eliminated all other phone numbers other than Sabrina's, just to see who else was calling or texting or anything else during the 16th and 17th.
Now, based upon Jonathan Hearn's phone and the number 998-7958, did you check into the call frequency between Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina Limon?
Yes, I did.
And what method did you do that with?
Basically by doing this redaction there for the various dates, just to see if there was a drop-off, like from phone calls or text messages or picture messages, anything of that sort. I just select each one of those options and select or unselect them to see if there was any other changes from any other day.
Now, what time frame did you use to check the frequency between a phone belonging to Jonathan Hearn and a phone belonging to Sabrina Limon?
For the total records, I did what's up there, the June through September.
Do you recall the total number of calls or text messages between the two phones?
Total?
Yes.
I don't recall the exact number, no.
Did you write that in your notes at some point?
Yes, I did.
Did you bring that with you today?
I do not have those with me.
Fresh recollection.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Do you recognize the notes contain
I do.
that? There's a copy of your notes.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Would those assist in refreshing your recollection as to the review that you did of the cellular phones that have been admitted under Peoples 18 and 19?
Yes.
Now, for call frequency, what is the time frame that you used to check how many calls have been made between a phone belonging to Jonathan Hearn and a phone belonging to Sabrina Limon?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
The call frequency between Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina Limon, what time frame did you look into?
I'll have to look at this for just a moment to figure it out.
That would refresh your recollection.
It would. Are you referring to the burner phone specifically? Or
To any phone associated with Sabrina Limon.
I have a couple of different times. I have from 11/22/13 to 3/11/14. That was on Sabrina's personal phone, and I've got another time frame from 4/25/14 to 6/1/14. And then additional from 6/2/14 to 9/1/14. And
Okay.
both of those are for Sabrina's burner phone.
Let's start with the earliest date. You said that's from November 2013 until what date?
Until 3/11/14.
And what is the call frequency between Jonathan Hearn's phone and a phone associated with Sabrina Limon on the records you reviewed?
There was about 526 phone calls for that time period.
Does that include text messaging?
Yes, it does.
Now, moving on to the date from April 25th, you said through June 1st, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, what phone are you reviewing at that time?
That would be Sabrina's burner phone, the 998.
All So the period between April 25th and June 1st, what is the call frequency numbers you were able to glean from the CDs marked as people's 18 and 19?
There was 1,600 calls and text messages.
All right, moving on to June 1st. I believe you said September 1st. Is that correct?
I have June 2nd, 2014 to September 1st.
Okay.
And that's where there were 5,909 calls and texts.
5,000. If you could repeat that.
It's 5,909, 5909.
And what phone numbers are we talking about? Which phones?
That'd be Jonathan Hearn's phone and Sabrina's burner phone, which is the 760-998-7958.
And all these numbers that you provided, the phone calls, those are phone calls or text messages.
That's correct.
Does that also include like multimedia text or just text messaging?
It will include the MMS.
Okay. What is MMS?
That's basically the picture message. When you're trying to send a picture of anything, that's what the message is actually called.
Okay. Nothing further.
Terry?
Mr. Maltroy, when was it that you actually began your surveillance of Sabrina Limon and Jonathan Hearn?
It was pre-wiretap. I don't know the exact date.
You documented in your report the occasions when you started doing the surveillance, did you not?
No, we forward any leads that we have, because again, surveillance is just basically information gathering, and so we would just forward that information to detectives who are more familiar with the case, so they can then sort with it as they need.
And you'd indicated, I think it was on direct, that there was no deputies involved that were using a red Titan pickup. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, some of the more suspicious activity that you observed Mr. Hearn and Ms. Limon engaged in during the time that you were surveilling them was them being with her children and eating pizza at a pizza parlor. Is that right?
I don't think I ever testified to it being suspicious.
Well, you saw them together. This was after Robert passed away. Is that right?
I did see them together, yes.
Okay. And that was in a round table pizza parlor. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And the children were there. Is that right?
That is correct.
Was there anybody else with Jonathan Hearn when he arrived?
No.
And the children, when I think you said he gave them some money or tokens to go use the video games. Is that right?
That is correct.
And then you saw one other time where it was Jonathan Hearn and Sabrina Limon at I think you said a yogurt shop.
It was like a frozen yogurt parlor restaurant.
When was that?
I don't recall the specific date.
And both of these contacts were in, I think you said Apple Valley. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. But you didn't document it in any report that when you saw them or what location in Apple Valley. Is that right?
We personally do not. We will notify the detectives in the wire room or the lead detective, whomever, to start documenting most of that stuff as we're driving around and we're undercover.
Now, with regards to cellular phones, you keep referring to the one phone that Sabrina had as a burner phone. Was this as a pay-as-you-go phone?
I don't know what the payment method was, though.
Okay. It's typical with a burner phone is you pay for it as you're going along. Is that right?
Are you referring to prepay or postpay?
Yeah. Prepaid phones, that type of thing. That's one of the things, a burner phone, so that there's no, you can go to a store and purchase it. You don't have to have your name. You just prepay for the minutes and you use it and then throw it away, right?
That is one of the methods, yes.
Okay. A burner phone is actually one that cannot be traced back to the individual who purchased it, right?
Sometimes, yes.
Well, that's the purpose, really, is to try to cut off the way to get back to the purchaser of the phone, right? If you call it a true burner.
Which is the point I'm making, is that you can have a burner phone under an alias, a false name, somebody else's name, things of that sort. And that could be a postpay phone and still be considered a burner phone.
Okay. In this instance, whose name was on that particular phone that you attribute to Ms. Limon? Who purchased it?
There was no name attached to the subscriber information on that phone.
Do you know how Ms. Limon came into possession of that particular phone?
I was told by investigators that Jonathan Hearn had purchased it for Sabrina.
And that's the only way you know who actually provided it to her. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, you talked about, this phone you said was activated sometime in April of 2014? Right?
That's correct.
And it went into first used around April 25th of 2014, is that right?
That is correct.
There were two phones that Jonathan Hearn had, right? There was an iPhone, and then there was another phone, which you called, I guess, a burner phone for him.
I never received those records.
Okay. Now you came to the conclusion that Sabrina Limon and Jonathan Hearn were involved in a relationship. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you found during the course of your review of the records that going back to at least November of 2013, they were involved in a relationship of some type, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. In other words, they were contacting each other a lot on the phone. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And then in March of 2014, you didn't see the same activity on her regular cell phone that you'd seen before of contact between her and Jonathan Hearn. Is that right?
That's correct.
In other words, at some point from March until the end of April, there was not the contact between the two of them, at least their phones. Is that right?
It switched to the other phone. Yes.
Okay. The contact between the two of them.
That is correct.
Okay. And were you aware that sometime in March of 2014 that Robert Limon had found out that Sabrina was still seeing Jonathan Hearn?
Yes.
And so one of the reasons that they had, or at least Jonathan Hearn supplied her with another phone, was because they were continuing with their relationship in some way, correct? That would be a reasonable conclusion.
Objection is what, counsel? As phrased, succinct.
You know whether or not, in fact, that was why, whether or not they purchased, or Jonathan Hearn purchased that phone so he could maintain contact with Sabrina alone without her husband knowing.
Objection, speculation.
Overruled. You can answer.
I can't make an honest opinion on that because I don't know what their thought was at the time.
But certainly if she was still wanting to see Jonathan, and Jonathan was still pursuing her, that she would, and her husband may have objected in March of 2014, and they still continue their relationship, she would try to have some way to contact him, not using her own cell phone, right?
Objection assumes facts, not an evidence.
Sustained.
Now, you talked a lot about phone contacts, or in going through the records that were even the redacted versions, such as from August 16th to August 17th, I noticed that there were a lot of 0-second contacts between the two phones. Did you notice those also?
I did.
Okay. Were those part of your statistical analysis and with regards to their contacts? Were you including those in the contacts?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. So where they're not actually speaking with each other, not contacting each other, and there's no indication of data being transferred even, but despite that, you still include those as contacts between Sabrina Limon and Mr. Hearn.
If the number is 0, it won't be a contact.
Well, you included those in your statistics, though, did you not?
There was never a day where there was a full 0 across the board, as in 0 phone calls, 0 texts, and 0 MMS messages. There was never a single day like that.
Well, when you were giving your total contacts, were you including the 0-second calls? In other words, where there was no connection or there was no transfer of data of any type in your statistics?
Yes.
Okay. And that would increase the number of what you call contacts, right?
No.
Well, if you include them in your statistics, that would increase the number of contacts, right?
As I explained before, if it's a 0 contact, it will not increase the number, but for averages and percentages, that will change if there's a 0 day. We call that an anomaly.
Mr. Terry, I hate to interrupt you, sir. Is that a good spot?
It's a good spot, Your Honor.
Okay. We'll call it a day. Have everybody back tomorrow morning at 9. Remember not to form or express any opinion or discuss the case. We'll see you back at 9 o'clock. Have a good evening.